The lab was buzzing with restless energy that morning. Chairs scraped, whispers bounced off the tiled walls, and the smell of chemicals lingered faintly in the air. The students weren't used to new teachers, especially not in the science lab, where the strict old Mr. Harris had ruled for decades. But today, there she was, young, calm, and strangely confident despite the sea of skeptical faces staring her down. Ms. Elena Brooks. At first glance, she didn't look intimidating. Dressed in a modest blouse and a simple ponytail, she carried herself with quiet poise. But that only seemed to make the boys in the back row more eager to test her. They had grown used to walking all over substitutes, and in their eyes, she looked like easy prey. As she set her notes on the desk and began speaking, a group of 3 boys started whispering and snickering. One of them, Jason, the ringleader, smirked and muttered loudly, "Bet she won't last a week." His friends laughed, their voices cutting through her calm explanation of lab safety procedures. Elena didn't flinch. She had faced worse before, much worse, but she let them continue, hoping they'd run out of steam. But they didn't. They got louder. By the second half of the class, Jason decided to push things further. When she turned her back to write on the whiteboard, he whispered, "Let's show her who's in charge." The boys crept up near her desk, pretending to grab something, and before anyone could react, Jason lunged forward, his hand wrapping around her throat in a mock choke, his friends egging him on. The class gasped. Some students laughed nervously, others froze in shock. But Elena did not panic. She stood completely still, her eyes steady on Jason's face. And then, almost too casually, she turned her head just enough that the edge of her collar shifted, revealing the tattoo inked on the side of her neck. A sharp crest, dark and unmistakable, the Navy SEAL insignia. The boys froze. Their laughter died instantly. Jason's grip loosened as his eyes widened. His bravado drained from his face, replaced by something he hadn't expected to feel, fear. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Elena gently pushed his hand away, not with force but with quiet control. She took one slow step closer, her voice calm but unshakable. "Do you know what this means?" she asked softly, tapping the tattoo. Jason shook his head, suddenly very small in front of her. "It means I've been trained to face people far more dangerous than you. And every time, I walked away standing." The other boys backed away, pale and shaken. No one dared to snicker now. Elena turned to the class, her voice carrying a new weight. "Strength isn't about who you can scare. It's about who you can protect. Remember that." The rest of the period went on in silence, every student glued to her words. No one whispered, no one mocked. For the first time, they saw her not as a new teacher but as someone who carried scars, discipline, and courage from a world they couldn't imagine. Over the following weeks, the story of what happened in the lab spread like wildfire across the school. Some kids didn't believe it at first, until they saw Jason himself sitting quietly in class, avoiding trouble, his arrogance completely gone. Something had changed. But the transformation didn't stop there. Elena began to open up little by little, sharing lessons not just about science but about life. She told them how she had lost friends in combat, how she learned that leadership wasn't about barking orders but about carrying responsibility when others couldn't. She taught them resilience, teamwork, and respect, not through lectures but through her example. Jason, who had been known as the school bully, found himself lingering after class one day. He didn't know how to say it, but the look in his eyes told her he felt something he hadn't before, remorse. She didn't scold him. Instead, she handed him a small task, setting up lab equipment, and with every small responsibility, she gave him the chance to rise instead of fall. Slowly, he did. The class grew tighter, more disciplined, more respectful. And the students learned that the quiet woman in front of them had a fire within her that could not be shaken. At the end of the semester, Elena closed her lesson with a message that stayed with them forever. Life will test you, sometimes cruelly. But remember, your strength is not in what you take from others, it's in what you give back. That's the mark of true courage. The same students who once mocked her now stood and applauded, their respect genuine, their hearts changed. So if this story reached you today, let it remind you, never judge someone by appearances. Behind quiet eyes may lie battles fought and victories earned that you could never imagine. And if her story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to this channel, Because stories like these deserve to be told, again and again, to remind us what real strength looks like.